Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. Welcome to the Venture Outfitter. I'm Kevin Kloim. Excited about today's subject because it's really critical, and it's interesting to see how some of our entrepreneurs are doing interesting things, leveraging their businesses to make a big difference in the world. Just as we always hear from entrepreneurs doing that type of stuff, I'm excited today about what we're about to talk about. We're going to hear from some of our entrepreneurs that are on the front lines in Ukraine about what they're actually up to and how they're handling the difficulties of what are happening in the Ukraine. First off, I want to welcome you to the Venture Outfitter part. This is a Tech Ranch program to support entrepreneurs around the world. We have a network of entrepreneurs that are working together. And I'm going to talk, before we get into our core subject, a little bit about the theory of change, but of what we're up to and how we're working together. But I want to say, first off, thank you to one of our sponsors, DuoWorks. Linda Blackman and her team run a co-working place here in Austin, Texas. It's actually right in the middle of a town. It's actually a really powerful place to be, especially if you're doing things in AI. And this is where Tech Ranch works with several different co-working places in Austin, but real excited about being here because this is a great place, great community, a lot of Tech Ranch history here as well. Next thing I'll tell you about is make sure you join our Facebook group. This is free. This is open to everyone in the world. I get a lot of questions about how to take advantage of plugging into Tech Ranch. And I know we have entrepreneurs from, first world countries and developing countries and all around the world. And a lot of times they say, hey, I'd really like some help on my venture, especially if you're in a really resource constrained place. The first place to take a step into this is to go to our Facebook group. This QR code, just point your camera to it. You can get straight into the Facebook group. This is a great way to plug into the overall the overall process. There's been a lot of feedback. You guys have been actually saying, hey, I'm really having a hard time figuring all this sort of stuff out. Part of what's happening is we're making it simpler to get into the flow of the tools we're having. Our new head of education and partnerships, Monica Paredes, has actually also set up a really cool flow across the different properties that we've introduced to you in the past, but this is the place to start. And one of the things that we're announcing, or actually we're kind of announcing a little bit early today, is the network memberships are now $49 because we've actually just kicked off the three big country bridges, Central America, Japan, and I'll be in the Czech Republic on Saturday. Actually, I'll be there by Sunday. Because of that, because we've gotten that large sponsorship from the ecosystem partners, we've been able to actually give you more access, or the individual entrepreneur that doesn't have a lot of resources, or perhaps doesn't have a backing of one of those kind of ecosystem partners, like one of the governments. Because we actually have those guys now, we can actually give you a better price for access to the network membership. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. Once you're in the Facebook group, we'll be posting about that every once in a while, because some of you actually want to take advantage of some of the resources that are there. It gives you a little bit more access to different things like the Venture Essentials class, the community network, the Slack channels. We actually have even more interaction on a weekly basis, and special invites, and then partnerships. There's a lot of vendors, as an example, that give us access to their platforms and stuff like that. But typically, before we can give you access to the vendor stuff, we have to go through a qualification process, and that costs us. I have employees that want to be paid for doing all that administrative stuff, and so this small membership price per month is what makes that possible. So take advantage of that if you get a chance. Coming soon, I just mentioned that next week I will be with Monica Paredes in Brno, Czech Republic. We'll also be doing activities in Prague in the Czech Republic as well. Part of this whole idea about working together is to build these bridges around the world. And part of that means that we got to get there, right? So that's going to be happening. Then May 12th, we'll be talking, we actually have a panel that we're going to highlight the Texas-Hungary Venture Bridge. and there's a lot of people that are interested in how is this venture bridge process working and stuff like that. So we'll be talking a lot about the different venture bridges and things like that. That program will run in the same time slot as this program. So those of you all that are not able to physically come to the Texas EU Summit, but would like to participate, make sure you come during that time. If you want to get involved earlier, they will have a Zoom stream that's going to be the full day. But for the 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock Texas time, we're going to be taking that slot. And so take advantage of the Texas EU Business Summit. It's great to actually have the support of the World Affairs Council, which has been partners with TechCrunch for many, many, many years. More information will be coming out about that. We'll talk about that this next week, and we'll have a specific slide that we go into more details about what's going to be happening and things like that with the URL. You can always go to our website, techcrunch.com/events. And at that site, we'll have the postings about how to sign up for the Texas EU Business Summit and stuff like that. Whether you're physically in Austin or you want to participate over Zoom, you can do both. And real excited about that. That is coming together quite nicely. We will be highlighting some of the activities, both on the investment side as well as the venture side, that are emerging out of the Texas Hungary Venture Bridge. So make sure you join us for that. So I wanted to stop for a moment before we get into our topic and talk about the theory of change that the TechCrunch Venture Outfitter Network, like if we were to answer the question, what are we doing here together and why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? We're driving for a world of shared prosperity, right? That's the why. The what is more of how, or actually how are we doing it, I guess is the answer that I want to say on this one slide. There's a theory of change. The first is to help transform the individual. That is, all of us that are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is a practice. It's something that you have to continue to do over many years. I've been an entrepreneur almost 30 years now. And I've also practiced martial arts for roughly that same amount of time. And there's a thing that you have to consistently do. So transforming the individual, that's the first part of the theory of change. The second part is we're here to cultivate this collaborative community and this culture of collaboration. In many of our venture outfitter programs, we've had more than 15 different countries represented, right? And, different voices from around the world. And when we collaborate together, we can actually really take on world problems and solve things. Because as you've heard me say before, there are entrepreneurs in one part of the world that can solve a problem in another part of the world. And the whole idea here is that by working together, we can do that. So that's how we actually get to the point that we can drive towards transforming industry to human centricity. What do I mean by that? Really big fancy words about just saying, we need to drive industries so that it actually serves people much more. And so one of the questions you might say, this theory of change is actually authored by me. The idea is, how is it that we can work together? We're going to support entrepreneurs getting better themselves. We're going to work together in building community. And by leveraging off of each other, we can actually get to taking on the big goal of making industry look much more like we want. That is, if you really want to drive a world of shared prosperity, you got to do it at the individual level. You have to have collective action as well to make that possible, which then allows you to keep on going around the circle, right? I want to make sure I say that because today we have such a serious subject. We're going to be hearing from some entrepreneurs that are on the front lines in Ukraine. And, we've had several different programs where we've talked about Ukraine, especially as the war began. And we had different, we've heard from voices that are totally against the war, from Russia to, Ukrainians that have been directly affected. And we had one entrepreneur, engineer that was on the front lines in that first few days of the war. Trying to figure out what's happening and things like that. And so make a long story short, today's program is all about this. Now, one of the things I want to say is the first person that relationships are interesting. Part of the whole secret of our work together is to build relationships. I learned this by being an entrepreneur in starting a business in Chile and starting a business in Mexico. The more relational cultures of Mexico and Chile taught me something as a Texan or as an American about how to do this. And what was interesting is this gentleman, Miroslav, is a friend that I met on the Aikido mat. What's Aikido? Aikido is a martial art where you work together. And it's interesting. So Miroslav is traveling today and is going to try to sneak in to tell us a little bit more, from his perspective. But one of the things he did was he shared, when we were reaching out in the early stages of the war, I was checking on him just to make sure that he and his family were doing okay in that first few, days of the conflict. And started, he has a really interesting perspective. And I do hope we get to hear from him. But he shared with me a couple of his team members. We're going to hear from Ihor, who is one of the Edvantis, their company's name is Edvantis, the director of business development, who is really focused on driving, data-driven transparency type of projects. They do software development for other companies, and how you can actually do this in a way where you have visibility into the project. We're also going to hear from one of their other team members, Andrew Laba, who is the director of sales and marketing, director of service management and marketing at Edvantis, and much more focused around product management type of issues at their company. But what's interesting is, so we've heard from a lot of different software developer companies, in the past, but I'm excited about this because excitement is not the right word exactly, because I'd rather us have a conversation about something else that has nothing to do with the war. I'd much rather us just be doing our work and things like that. But part of what we're going to do is have them share with us some insight about the overall conditions on the ground, what they're actually doing with their company, how they've had to shift and bob and weave about different things. With that, what I want to do is I want to hand this over to Ihor and have you take over and welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing insights for our team, for our overall community. This whole idea of the theory of change, of working together. Part of what we're here to do is to support you in the work that you're doing as a community, as a collaborative community to work together. Ihor, why don't you take it over from here? And welcome to the Venture Outfitter.
Hello. Yeah, nice to meet all of you. Thank you. And what I can say, I have just a couple of, I would say, slides, just to provide you with some context. And after that, we can have some discussion here. So if you're okay, let me just share this.
Please go right ahead. Love to thank you for being here today.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's great. So this is not a typical, I would say, presentation that I'm doing right now. Usually I'm doing a presentation about the business with some, I would say, numbers, revenues, growth, costs, some other things. But right now, in this presentation, I will try to change my hat, I would say, and just to provide you some insights from the fields and how we see the picture and what is really going on in Ukraine right now. I have to say that this is not, I would say, an easy thing. So this is, I would say, a challenge to discuss all of these topics. So I'll just put my own, and Andrew's vision here, so we can just discuss. And after that, we will have time for Q&A session, I would say. Yeah, I will start with a little context. Yeah, and you can take a look. Here, I would say that I'll have a lot of visual things. First of all, just to have you, just to provide you with some feelings, yeah, to provide you with some understanding, and maybe so you guys can just get some sense what is going on, how we see this. Yeah. So I would say that we'll have and we'll put your attention on a couple of things. First, it's pretext about Ukrainian history, about war and IT. And two other things will be how IT industry in Ukraine is helping in the war, and how you guys can help. Yeah, and I will start with a joke that was, give me a moment. Yep, I'll start with a joke that was published by US Embassy in Kyiv. Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine, just 2 days before the start of the war. So you can just take a look here. Maybe in a nutshell, this is for just to make sure and just that I would say debunk one of the myths of Russian propaganda that Russia is a big brother for us. I would say that somebody is just missing the point. And at that time, Kyiv was, I would say, booming as a metropolis, as you can take a look here, yeah. And where the Moscow is just like booming in terms of nature as a force, like from the very beginning, yeah. And you can take a look some other things here from Yuval Harari. I believe you're aware about this person as well, yeah. So now I will try to point your attention to our history. Yeah. I will try to describe our history in 2 slides in just in a couple of minutes. From what we can see here on this slide, I would say that all of these slides were like showing our like as a nation, I would say the people who were living there on this territory, they wanted all the time to be self-government and independent. There were a couple or like several episodes in our history where we do have our own like self-government, and I would say really what we wanted to have, yeah. And we have also a lot of episodes where we are just fighting for that. From what I would like to emphasize here is what is common on these pictures. It's military. Like the first was once Kievan Rus was established. To that it was Cossacks hetmanate, and it was war for independence in 20th century. And what is important, not only about self-government and independence, but all the time after these events, we were fighting with Russian people, actually. Okay, and I would say in the recent history, yeah, in the recent history, after the collapse of Soviet Union, we wanted to rebuild our own state. This is like the first picture. It's proclamation of independence of Ukraine. And after that, I would say with the neighbor that we have, it is a bit hard because the neighbor has his own like vision or opinion about our existence. And I believe this neighbor, you can understand who it is. Yeah, we are talking about Russia, not about the Poland. We are not talking about the Hungary, Slovakia, and some others. Yeah, we are also talking about Russia here. And what I can say here, previously we were, I would say, in 1994. We were, I would say, naive enough just to give away our nuclear weapon or nuclear arsenal. And at this point of time, we were having the third arsenal nuclear weapon in the world. So it was, I would say, a lot of in that period of time. And we just give it away for security guarantees. And as you may see later in 2014 and 2022, I would say one of the guarantors have broken its promises, actually, and annexed a part of Ukraine. And right now we are having full-scale war with this country. Yeah, and traditionally I can ask you, guess who it is? Yeah, I believe we understand. Yeah, with whom we are talking about whom we are talking about. As you probably have heard, we had two revolutions, which were caused by Russian interference into our election, actually. And the main goal for this revolution was not to provide an option for Russia to have a puppet government here in Ukraine. It's one, and also to stand to democracy values that we had. Yeah. I would say after the second revolution, you can take a look here. This is like the first revolution, so-called Orange Revolution. Yeah. And the next is another one. It's in 2014 was Revolution of Dignity, or Euromaidan, I would say. And I believe some of you can just saw this picture, and just we will be talking about IT. And I'm from IT world. I have to say that the person who is playing the piano, it's the head of R&D of one of the biggest IT company in Ukraine at that period of time. Right now, this person is working for Vimeo, I would say for
the people that might not know what the picture sees, like if they're hearing us, there's a gentleman playing a piano in front of riot police, it looks like. Yeah, exactly. That was some kind of like saying that we are against you. We are not with you, but in a very polite way. We are not talking about some military or some other things from our side, like from people side here. Yeah, and I would say that after the second revolution, after this revolution of dignity, just in a couple of days, Russia decided to do the annexation of Crimea and the part of Donetsk and Luhansk Republic. This is also like the puppet, I would say, puppet government are playing there. Yeah, and why they're doing this? Because if you are talking about the impact, we have to talk about the impact and the pressure, like keeping Ukraine under pressure for this time, and just in a way how they see this. We will be talking more about how they are doing, but in general, what I have to say is just that did not work, actually. Because Ukraine began to move faster in their development and the direction of EU, like European Union and NATO. After that, definitely. So, and Russia, as you may see on the last picture here, Russia decided to take their next, like further steps, and launch the full-scale war in Ukraine. What we have, like from the second part of February this year. So let's step back and just ask ourselves why Ukraine is so strategically important for Russia. I believe that different people are saying different things. Some of them are because of like restore Great Russian Empire, or some other things like resources, territory, fossil resources, gas pipelines, water, agriculture. I believe definitely part of this, yes. Also, if you're talking about geopolitical impact,
like opposite to United States or NATO or some other things, yeah. But from my perspective, how I see this, and you can just take a look also here, Russia autocrats doesn't worry about NATO. What interferes him, it means about their president, is a prospect of a flourishing Ukrainian democracy. I believe this is like from my own perspective, this is the most important. So this is like point two here, risks of successful neighboring states and democratic states here. I have to say that Ukraine is much smaller than Russia, and maybe it looks like David against Goliath right now. But from what I see and how we see this, I have to say that Ukraine have learned how to live with such a neighbor here, and partially we were preparing for this war. I have to say not fully, definitely, but partially yes. And after the Orange Revolution, Ukraine has began to cut ties with Russia and began to, I would say, establishing new links with some other democratic countries here. And if you are talking about the next things, I would say that it is more about the impact of the war on the war for us. And you can just take a look here what we see, like how we see our like strategy against Russia. Maybe in a nutshell, not to put a lot of attention here, I would say that we began to move closer to NATO. We were moving out of, I would say, Russian interests with Commonwealth, independent states, union, and something like that. We are rebuilding our military, diversifying, this is a very important point, diversifying our export-import and debt from Russia to United, I would say the European Union, some other countries. And just to put some words about the war and our economy. Just to understand how the war is impacting our economy, we have to take a look in our, I would say, structure of our economy. And the structure, this is very, I would say, simplified, but you can take a look here that we see like three main, I would say, industries. Yeah, we are talking about agriculture is like one of them. We are talking about industry like mining, fossil resources, some other things here. If you are talking about industry part, and we also have a service part. And if you would just take a look from the 30 plus years of our independence, we are just growing the service part. And I believe this is important just to keep in mind once we are talking about how we can help. I believe here we have, with yellow, we have IT industry. This is not only IT industry here, but IT is like growing, and we will just take a look how. Yeah. I would say that since IT is like substantial part of our economy, of service economy, it is worth to talk about for a moment. This is the way how you can see the evolution of IT in Ukraine, and that was built, I would say, from the very beginning on a solid foundation of computer science and researches. After that, I would say Soviet military R&D or something like that. You can take a look here, yeah. And when Ukraine became independent, some people from Ukraine that have knowledge in computer science and have some, I would say, entrepreneurial spirit, began to launch IT companies and serving Western companies, like providing services to them. Yeah, and give me a moment. Yeah. And also some product companies were launched, and some of the big players also established their offices in Ukraine. So I believe that you can recognize some of the logos here. If you're talking about Grammarly, GitLab, PetCube, some others, Deposit Photos, I believe also. Yeah, and I would say that since IT professionals, give me a moment. Yeah, you can also take a look how IT professionals, or like IT as an industry, is just growing. If you're talking about share in our expert, and from what is important to understand, like moving back to our economy, this first and second, like agri and industries, are not working good right now and will not be working good right now in terms of war, because just from the very, I would say, pessimistic scenario, we will have at least like 40% or 30% of fields that are not that will not be used this year for agriculture. And if you're talking about industries, we have right now, for example, for steel production, which was like the most, I would say, the biggest part of our export. We are almost closing. Maybe some small enterprises are open and doing some work, but all the big manufacturer players are just closed. Because that was in most cases related to eastern and central part of Ukraine, and you can just take a look and understand what's going on there. So I have to say that agriculture and industries, or like mining, fossil industries, or like resources, will not be in a good shape going forward from now. What is in a good shape and what will be, it is services, and in most cases we are talking about IT industry, because this is like exporting industry. And give me just a couple of words just to finish.
One of the things that, while you're getting to that next slide, that's important to know, Ukraine, I did not know this before. I mean, I knew a lot about Ukraine, but I did not know this about Ukraine beforehand, that Ukraine's seen as the breadbasket of Europe. And one of the things that's been announced is that because exports of grain are down, it's predicted that there will be more than 100 million people that will be at risk of starvation, especially in areas like Northern Africa, because Ukrainian grain won't be able to get to them. So it's quite an impact about having the, when Ihor was talking about, the farms, they're not able to farm because there's bombs dropping. And because of that, the implication that we should know that we're going to see within the next 3 to 4 months starting is quite literally 100 million people at risk of starvation because of Ukrainian grain being stopped. So keep on going, or I just wanted to paint that part of the picture, that it's not just about a bunch of farmers not able to get to the farms. It's about people around the world not able to eat.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe just some of the points here is also to know that we are trying to do the like seeding and to use our land as much as possible, but taking into account the current situation with the Russian war and Russian invasion in Ukraine, a lot of farmers that can do something right now are just changing the crops, not for just the regular one that they plant, for something that can be much stronger and not depending on some special conditions, just to have at least some yield in the end of the season. Yeah, so it is also important just to understand that, yeah, that it will be some more impacts there on a global level. And just maybe the last point from myself, from my part, I have to say that IT as a driving force for change, was not only just right now, once we have the full-scale war, but it was previously. I have to say that it was much more, I would say, organized after the first revolution and definitely after the second revolution. We have some very good, I would say, systems and some other equipment, some other things in place. For example, DIA, our e-government in Ukraine, we have a lot of good things there. In your mobile, in your smartphone, you can have the passports. You can even open private entrepreneurs accounts there, and some other things. Also, we developed like government procurement system just to make sure that we are not spending, I would say, state's money for something that is not needed, or for some not the best price or something like that. The system named Prozora. And we have a lot of other things that IT was driving over the years. For example, establishing and funding some academic programs in a number of universities here in Ukraine, equipment for hospitals in case of COVID-19, like I would say activities related to COVID-19, and even more previously, also equipment for some universities, some other things. We have also like military document system for our military named the Brih, also like in place, and this universal artillery calculation for land forces, and much more, I would say, like Ukrainian cyber alliance that you can take a look on the photo. And maybe one of them, just to give you some, I would say, volume to see that Ukrainian IT army, that is actually IT volunteers that are helping to do some good stuff. For example, like ban some websites, Russian websites right now, or some other things. And you can just take a look that it is almost 300,000 people there. So it is quite big volume. I believe that's it. I spent some time. I will just provide maybe, or just saying to Andrew, like the floor is yours. We have just a couple of slides more.
Yeah, I mean, I will be brief, right? We touch on history, we touch on the dynamics and the context in which Ukraine is right now. I have to say that agility is utmost important right now, right? IT industry developed rapidly in Ukraine because we had the post-USSR era talent in place, and the service kind of transformed. My job is managing service offering for IT companies, so like I saw that trajectory from having the strong talent and trying to automate what we had on the manufacturing side, then trying to kind of show the talent to the outside world and combat the trust issues. We are across the ocean, we will work or not work. And we moved from that side to adding value to people. Most of the things that me and Ihor do on a daily basis is trying to showcase the client that we will not add people, we will add expertise, we will add value, we will be your partner, we will voice our opinion, we will kind of blend and co-create something using our strong sides and driving you to the success, right? So this is something that is important for us as an industry and as a society. I think the agility of what we are now seeing is unimaginable, right? I'm the person who benefited from IT most. I'm as old as Ukraine, as independent Ukraine, right? And the social elevator that investment in me and in IT provided is immense, right? I can manage my team and can learn, take some courses, talk with you people across the border and share some experience, and have that as a middle class in Ukraine is a beautiful thing for now. And we will do more, right? We will move even further with this. So that's the one thing that people overlook, right? We as an IT worked for 30 years with online meetings, with being in 10 hours, time different zones. The language was a barrier at first, but now you see I'm trying to sound as good as you guys. I'm catching up.
You sound
but,
great.
Thank you. Don't make me blush, please. But I mean, we're trying to erase every barrier, right? The value is the most important thing, and we know we can bring it on. And I think people underestimate the agility, and I will bang on this point. When COVID started, we already were remote. We already worked with our clients remotely. So we had the best practices to utilize them, right? When the war started, we were at shock at first. Like we had to adapt the clients, the new businesses, but Miro, Ruslan, Ihor, they were in the war room planning. People's safety was the first priority, right? We have to understand where we are on our personnel, that most of us are in the Western Ukraine. Some of us as Ihor are in different sides of world trying to do more. And that's, I think Ihor, you can just switch to the next slide, please. That's something that is important. Then we started thinking about our businesses. And in my practice, the communication is something, and managing the expectation is something that is utmost priority, especially in this crisis environment, right? We had to communicate to them that we have a business continuity plan. Everything is in order. There is a shock. We will adapt. Give us a few days. We are people, right? We never expected to see this, like air alarms, bomb shelling, something like that. But then a beautiful thing happened. We started step by step resuming our work, drawing from the frameworks and standards that we used before, regroup, and even help to our military and to our country. Here showed you the numbers, right? IT is one of the more resilient industry that is still present in Ukraine and draws foreign currency. And that agility is a crucial benefit to the success, right? Even with the war, the projection are still viable for IT sector to hit the number for 2022 with immense performance from all the personnel and people that we have in different companies, right? And one thing that I will have to stress before we will sum up with some short points. Recently, I heard an interview with the foreign journalist that came to Ihor to see how we are dealing with the war, with the volunteering, and she was amazed with the structure and with the system, how everybody helps everyone. And then she asked, why would you buy some military equipment or some armors for your soldiers? This is the government's job, right? And that's the regular statement for us as the citizens. But right now we are united and we are Ukraine. Me as a person, us as a company, us as a government. So everybody pitches in. Like in Edvantis, you see right now, we, in the first months or so, we contributed to multiple funds, right? We have a Comeback Live fund that was started right after the Crimean invasion or even earlier to help our soldiers to drive them in. We purchased some equipment for the different soldiers that requested them, drones or something like that. Here, just switch please to the next one. We did like something for the food for those people on the front lines, and our like Miro helped by thermal imaging stuff, like send it. So we even sheltered some people in our offices, and that's something that is done almost by all companies right now, especially in the Western Ukraine, right? We adapted, we converted offices that were empty during the COVID era, put some beds into that, something for the kids, something to take their mind off the war and offer them a thing that Russia took from them. The question about the internet, right? So Starlink, something that happened to Ukraine during the war, right? Never before we were expecting to have a direct communication with Elon Musk, but we have this IT initiative within Lviv and in major cities that combines a number of companies and represent them as a collective. So they saw the need for the infrastructure to stay connected, right? And through some miracles, we got a hold of Tesla, Elon, anybody in that company, and managed to have a direct supply. So now we bought the first pair for the military, then for the cities and the crucial infrastructure. We as an Edvantis had one and donated it to the frontline military guys to have better communication and connectivity. But I think it's just the beauty of globalization, right? And the unity of the world. Never before we expected something as this to happen, but the support is immense and we highly appreciate that. Ihor, can you maybe switch to the slide with the QR code, please? So, I mean, it is just a different experience, right? We are now trying to cope with it. We, as most companies, are operational. I think 95% of our business is back to normal. There are still some fluctuations and some good and the bad news, but as an industry, we are okay. Most of our people have different ways of dealing with this. Almost 90% of personnel in IT companies donates regularly to funds that I showed you, to some humanitarian aid. They volunteer like I do. I'm trying to help a different company outside of the work to find an equipment, source it, supply it, align everything. We provide some food, buy anything that we can, spare some time. Some people joined military or our local just defense groups that were established. And by this QR code, you can go and see the blog post that we did on different ways that you can help. And I think that's the short-term version of it, right? We have some places that could benefit from a donation. Long-term, I think we are trying and we are currently proving that we are a viable partner for any business outside and inside of Ukraine. We are resilient and agile. And Edvantis is only one of many companies, right? You saw Grammarly as a product. You saw many outsourcing giants in the industry that came from Ukraine. I think strategically taking into the account the damage that Russia did to our infrastructure, doing business with us, which seems usual, right? Is something that would help us. So I think that's the balance that we are right now. Our pre-sales are invest 200 times more and help our client understand that even though there is a war, we're still able to digest your problem, come up with a roadmap, have an offering for you, deliver on it. Our customer success rate or CSAT is 94, 95% in the last quarter. So, I mean, we are actively working on it, I think. I think we can jump into some interactive questions, something that you guys feel is interesting or should be covered.
Yeah, that sounds great. We can go ahead and cut the slides and that'd be perfect. Thank you for sharing the perspective. And so you're actually in Lviv in Western Ukraine as well, right? That's where the company is originally from. What's the feeling on the ground right now there?
I mean, I have to say we adapted to some unexpected things like air alarms. We know the drill, we'll have to find the safest location. So it's not that disturbing to the workflow. We know how we can regroup around that. The communication is smoother. I think just the first months or so made us stronger as a team and to rely on each other. And I think right now we are on our second, I don't know, breath of fresh air, right? We saw some advances. We see the support from around the world. Our clients show us immense support with new businesses, with staying with us. So I think we are motivated than ever. There are some disturbances, I wouldn't lie, right? When you see something happening bad around your city, then there are some highs and lows, but just the sheer unity of the country drives us further and further. Like I'm more optimistic than ever, I think, about the outcome, and maybe that the result will be best, not even for Ukraine, but for the world as a whole.
Can you give us a perspective as well? I mean, we've got really bad news this morning in Mariupol on the eastern side. Is there, like, what's the, from inside of Ukraine, what's perspective right now about what's happening on towards the east?
We are learning that in this day and age, like the informational flow was like unmanageable before, right? Right now, one insight that I learned through this, I'm like, before I consumed news with bits and pieces, right? I like to read The Verge, for example, or some TechCrunch news, but it was once a day or twice a day, just CNN articles popping up. But right now, every 5 to 10 minutes, you have to have something, like you have to see something. And our Ukrainian news outlets through the messengers are quick, like with the facts, like some explosions, something happened. So if the pace is crazy. But the second thing after that is there are a lot of misinformation, right? You have to understand that, especially when you're dealing with Russia, KGB mentality is you say one thing, but do very different in the reality, right? So we understand that the first stage was crucial, and right now some of the news are horrific. Like people left in Mariupol, for example, starving, trying to get out, and that's not something that I can process with any good emotions. At the same time, the support, new weaponry that is provided, and the success of the soldiers on the ground. Even the news that Putin said that their forces should leave the Mariupol and just encircle it without any further bombing, to not kind of, I don't know, to spare some soldiers.
It's really hard to it's really hard to believe, based on all the different based on what's happening. Based on what's happening, it's really hard to believe when he says one thing and then something else happens. You're like, there is something disconnected there. So why do you think? Why do you think? I mean, to both of you, why do you think that Putin's even making a play for Ukraine in the first place? Why is that? Y'all touched on it, or Ihor touched on it a little bit, but what's the big deal? Like, why is it here? Especially given that what he said about it not being Ihor showed the photos of Kiev has got its own history way before Moscow even got started. What's the big deal?
Maybe
either one of you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say there are. I just trying to highlight it. I believe there are a couple of things important. First is, like, from my own perspective, it's something that having a strong neighbor near Russia, it is, I would say, risks of autocracy, or like I would say just about their political regime that they have. And we could have a lot of, and we are collecting, I would say, a lot of evidence that this is the case. For example, once Russian soldiers come to our cities, or for example, they just annexed some small villages or cities, just first of all on east, and some of previously was on north to Kiev. Yeah, they were just in a position that just taking some I would say basic things from our cities to their own, like families, like washing machines, like I don't know, some boots or some just regular thing. And they were like, one of the things I remember, they were asking in some villages, Ukrainian villages, why you are not having like horses? You should have horses. And question from answer from our people was, why we need to have horses? We have like tractors. We have everything there. And they were just enormously like seeing that it is something unexpected for them, that we are not like the as rich as a country, for example, as United States and some other countries. Yeah, but if you're talking about just a regular Russian person, and just to compare Ukrainian one, we are much more, I would say, richer on our middle class, and even on a poorer class, I would say, of society is one thing, and also they have their own, like I would say, reasons, and here also just need to take into account that once, for example, there are soldiers coming back, understanding that Ukraine is much more richer, that it looks like that something is not good within their country, yeah, and it will be like a risk for Putin and his regime to be in place, because he's like, as a country, definitely Russia is much more richer than Ukraine. It's definitely, they're much bigger. They have everything like much bigger than we are. For example, if you're talking about fossil resources, yeah, oil, gas, some other things, yeah. Also agriculture, also. So, but this is one thing. Another thing that one of the reasons also is that they really want to rebuild, I would say, so-called the Great Russian Empire. Like, and we heard a number of times that Putin was saying something like that it is a mistake that Ukraine was an independent state, that it is not the case. It's another thing. One more, why Kiev is also very important, it's because of the propaganda. They are having like 300 gaps, 300 years of gaps in their propaganda, because they are talking about that they are big brothers, but as you may just take a look, US embassy just issued the picture, yeah. So it looks like that it is not the case, and once they conquer Kiev, for example, it will be much easier saying that it is all of like Great Russian Empire. Doesn't matter where we started, from Kiev or from Moscow or from other place, yeah. So this is also the piece, and definitely if you are talking about Ukraine, we have, I would say, very big resources in comparison to other European countries. Just for example, we are having like, we as a country have the biggest land in Europe, and just imagine, before the war we had 45% of black soil all over the world in one country. 45% of black soil. What does it mean? It means that I, for example, I had some knowledge, I would say, or some experience in agri-food, having my MBA in agri-food. I can just definitely say, because I saw that, that yield in Ukraine is bigger than, for example, in Canada or some other countries, just because of this black soil, which is very important. And you can just spend much less like fertilizers, crop protection, some other things, just to have this like in place, to have a decent yield. But I believe that it could be some more reasons, but that was like, from my perspective, it's important. And if you're talking about resources in Ukraine, it's not only about agri, it's about like, I would say, resources and infrastructure. You remember that Ukraine is like Ukraine has gas pipelines that transporting Russian gas to Europe. This is also like a piece of infrastructure, very important, and it costs also a lot. And definitely we were having one of the biggest steel production in the world. So this is also the pieces. Yeah, I believe I had to stop right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we are going over a little bit of the time than we usually do, but I think this is such an interesting subject that I want to go ahead and make sure that we have a little bit of time that we go ahead and save for questions as well. Is there any, if there's anyone that has questions, go ahead and signal based on raising your hand. There's a few things that are coming in via text, WhatsApp, LinkedIn messages, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to share some of that in just a second, just because I think it's important. But if I was to ask one last question, if there's not ones from the audience, if there's one last question, is there anything that from a standpoint of, we'll put the QR code up again in just a little bit about the contribution page onto the Edvantis website, but is there any other way that like, IT individuals here can support what you're up to, like in the support of, direct support to you, that then somehow supports the overall activities there in supporting, the people of Ukraine?
I mean, right now, I think the support is wide, right? Different like, strokes for different levels. People are moving to your country. Somebody can spread the word and kind of hire them or share the knowledge with them. We see the like initiatives by opening universities, having joint programs, doing anything like hubs, like you mentioned at the start of your program, right? Somebody in a hub in the middle of Austin will share a space or share some tips and tricks how to do business. Introductions, right? If somebody does want to build a software or wants to do something that can be offered from the IT sector within the Ukraine, just a network will be great. So we see this moving around, like our clients offering us the same thing. Just if it's not direct, then we will introduce you to somebody, we will spread a positive message about you, we will find somebody, something for place to work, to live for a person that moves to your country. One of our biggest clients has even like a regular meetings, and they set it up to talk about Ukraine. They had presentations about the history, impact of war, and their sales personnel opened their homes to people who came from Ukraine to their countries. So that's just right now, we need everything, I think, just to push this against the wall and just end the madness. So yeah, anything that you need, say hi, connect to LinkedIn, we're open.
So one of the things that we'd like to do here at TechCrunch for sure as well, and Andrew and Ihor, if you both can actually help us share this, from a standpoint of the TechCrunch network, we'd like to, the Venture Outfitter Network, we've got 20 spots for 20 different Ukrainian startups to get involved in our network. If there's, and I'll personally interact with the entrepreneurs from Ukraine, whether you're in the country, Ukraine right now, or actually, you know, especially if you're displaced. It's my understanding that there's more than 3 million Ukrainians that have been displaced or that are refugees right now outside of the country too. So that's one thing that our organization will do. Obviously, also partnering with organizations like Edvantis to, you know, the work that you're doing. I was talking to Miroslav about, I know a number of other projects that we'll tell you guys about, and I need to follow up with either you, Andrew, or Ihor or Miroslav as we do that. So we'll be we'll make sure that happens. I want to make sure as well that you that y'all get onto our network, our Mighty network, so that, and also into our Slack channels, because there will probably be follow-up questions for you from our larger group, especially as we post. A lot of times our studio audience will be a small audience, but then we'll actually have a much bigger audience. Like right now, there's individuals that are, one of our venture partners is in the UK and is watching this stream from London. I'll share a message from him in just a second that I did a screenshot of, because I think it's important to show the power of the network. The other thing I'll say real quick, in my experience in working with Ukrainian software developers, one of the projects that I did, a lot of people know that I built a lot of skunkworks, skunkworks being a disruptive way of solving a problem. I will put in my 2 cents about this. There was a state of Texas project that the state, the vendor that had sold this to the state of Texas essentially abandoned the project. And someone at the state finance commission had reached out to me and said, hey, our vendor abandoned this project. Would you possibly help us out? Because I kind of have a little bit of a history of being a fireman in solving tenacious problems at the last minute. I was able to put together a team that included, I mean, the budget had pretty much been spent by this other vendor. They took a really large budget and they abandoned it when there's only like around $30,000 left in the budget. I was able to put together a team with another software development house that was based out of Lviv years and years ago, and we built out using really advanced techniques, not what had been originally designed by the state, but some really advanced techniques. The largest website in the state of Texas system, from a number of hits it gets on a daily basis, as well as the number of pages that it has, was built out by this Ukrainian team for me, for my other business, to solve that. They did an amazing job, and I really enjoyed working with Ukrainians. Ukrainians are a lot like Americans in that you can kind of say, hey, go figure this out, go figure out what's needed, and they do it. They're very enterprising, and we've already heard that from Andrew and Ihor about how they figure things out. The piece of software that they use to manage just information for citizens, I'm jealous of. I live in Austin, Texas, and Austin, Texas is supposed to be all that and, a bag of chips, as the expression goes. But the problem is interacting with the city compared to what they have right now in the cities across Ukraine. There's no, they're at level 10 and we're over here at around level 3. And that's my professional opinion, by the way. That's one of the reasons that they've been able to take care of their citizens much faster using their IT, to the point that Andrew and Ihor both made. Any closing comments that either one of you would like to make really quick before we do some final slides and say goodbye for the day?
We will be open to any questions and stay in touch, right? The Slack and the network, that would be perfect just to communicate. And I have to say, I really appreciate the praise from you. Thank you. It means a lot, especially during those times.
And Ihor, did you wait, and Andrew, you're welcome. Yeah, it's like when I got that note from Miroslav, I was very touched, because I'm like, yeah, you guys shouldn't have to deal with this. We should be building software projects. We shouldn't have to figure out how to save people from being killed. Like it's insane. Ihor, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Yeah. I want to say just first of all, thank you. Yeah, I'm also open to this. I would say that in a nutshell, if you can just take a look how you can help. You as a community. And first of all, I believe that Austin and Texas is like great in their startups and IT movements, definitely. So I propose like how you can help. First of all, it's to hire Ukrainians in your own startups, companies. I believe in most cases, Ukrainians are very, I would say, they have accountability in most cases. This is very important. Another thing, you can just work with Ukrainian companies, service companies, product companies, some other companies. One of them is our company also. Why it is important if you would like to help? Because once you are providing, I would say, a job or like a work for a Ukrainian person, you will benefit like 3 times. First, we will be paying some taxes to Ukrainian government and all this stuff. Another one, what is important, the person, at least in Ukraine, for different like researches, we have like one person from IT is just collecting from 5 to 8 people from different professions all around himself, like haircut, some other services needed, and something like that. This is very important because this person will be spending your money that he, for example, that he deserves for his work, in Ukraine. And the third option is to donate. That all of us are donating every single week or day, month, and will be donating. You should not ask whether you will be donating. Definitely all of us will be doing this. In this case, it's not the question whether we will be doing. The question is how much we can donate. And if you will be able to provide a work for, you as a community, So as much work we can have, the biggest donation from our side will be to our military forces and to medicine and some other things. And thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for your comments and everything like that. Thank you for the work that you're doing. The network never was designed for actually going against dealing with war, but I see the value in what you're up to, and I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. We really do need to bind together to solve these type of issues. I mean, just the sheer number of people who've been killed is insane. So the thing they actually have us do, I went ahead and posted another QR code here on the screen so that you can see so you can go directly to that page that Edvantis has done. The other thing I would just wanted to notice is one of our venture partners out in the UK, he lives between London and Austin, Texas, just sent me the following text. So I just wanted you to see that things are already happening across the world. We've had Ukraine, Germany. Let's see, we have one of our partners from Brazil that's here, one from the Dominican Republic, a couple other people, across lots of different, Haiti as well is represented. Colombia is represented right now, just in the studio audience alone. So, on that might not be massive, but it is powerful. So let's do what we can to see how we can support the people of Ukraine. Thank you, Lindsay, for watching. Thank you for all the individuals that are listening to this live stream on LinkedIn. Let's see what we can actually do to make this work and go farther. Just in a few wrapping up things, if you are not on our email list, if you're not in our Facebook group, if you'd like to get involved in all the different things, if you're actually a country, if you represent another country and you want to say, hey, I'd like to get this country involved in this network, we have a place for country managers to identify themselves and sign up. Please take advantage of this one webpage. It's kind of like our clearinghouse for, just like connecting into all the different pieces. And with that, it's always an honor to be here working with a group of entrepreneurs around the world, a community that's driven by vision and values. Let's go do our best to change the world for the better together, and let's go make a difference together. Thank you all for today. Thank you, Ihor. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you to Miroslav. When you get a chance to see this, stay safe to all of you. And let's take this evil and get back to just good business again. Thank you all.